So, what if our most ancient myths aren't really about gods and demons at all? What if they're actually about a forgotten economic war? Today, we're going to dive into the really provocative work of author Carmen Nayak, who reframes ancient Indian history as this massive clash between two totally different economic systems, the Green and the Pink revolutions.
Nayak kicks things off with this powerful quote right from the preface of the book, and it really sets the stage. The whole idea is that an entire civilization, with its advanced tech, its economic philosophy, everything, wasn't just defeated. It was deliberately wiped from the history books, its heroes turned into villains. So let's just dig into that central question for a minute. The book suggests that these figures we've been taught to see as asuras, or demons, well, they were actually the brilliant minds of an indigenous civilization, the Nagvenshi, the folks who pioneered some seriously advanced agriculture and engineering. Okay, to really get this, Nayak lays out this framework built around two completely opposite revolutions, and these revolutions were born from two very, very different parts of the world. This isn't just about a clash of cultures, it's about two fundamentally different ways of looking at everything. On one side, you've got the Green Revolution. This one grew out of the incredibly fertile Sapta-Sindhu River Basin. Because there was so much abundance, the Nagavanshi learned to create, to farm, and to build a society all about stability. Then, on the other side, you have the Pink Revolution. This one came from the harsh, dry lands around the Black Sea. And over there, scarcity created a culture of extraction and hunting, a mindset all about taking whatever you needed just to get by. And these two philosophies, well, they directly shaped the technology each side developed. The Green civilization, they were all about agroscience. They grew cotton to make plant-based clothes so no animals were harmed. And they built these huge dams called ritra to manage their water. The Pink civilization, on the other hand, was driven by their hunting background. They got really, really good at the logistics of slaughter, using salt to preserve meat for long trips and tanning leather for their clothes. Total opposites, right? This is where their economic divide becomes super clear. In the green economy, the bull, Nandi, was seen as a capital asset. It was like a living, breathing tractor that powered their circular farming system for years and years. But for the pink economy, that exact same animal was just consumable stock, a one-time source of meat rations. It was a clash between sustainable production and just immediate consumption. So what happens when these two completely different worlds slam into each other? The book argues it wasn't a simple war for land. No, this was a strategic, systematic takedown of the entire green economy by the pink one. This chart really breaks it down for us. You can see how the whole conflict was fought over things that had completely different values to each side. For the Nagvanshi, it was all about defending their living capital, the Nundi, and their water infrastructure, the dams. For the invaders, it was about plundering those exact resources to fuel their own machine, a machine that ran on salt and cured meat. And this next point is a real game changer. The author argues that this ancient term, gavishti, which we've often been told means a noble search for cows, was actually the name for the invaders' main military strategy, targeted raids to steal the living currency, the livestock of the Nagvanshi civilization. And this strategy, it had two very clear goals. First, you cripple their ability to grow food by destroying their advanced water systems, those richer dams. Second, you liquidate their entire economic engine by slaughtering the Nandi cattle for meat. See? Without water and without their living tractors, the green civilization was basically brought to its knees. But the physical destruction was only one part of the plan. The author makes the case that the final, most permanent victory wasn't won on any battlefield. It was a psychological war. And it was won by weaponizing language itself. Think about that for a second. The idea here is that by twisting the meanings of key Nagvanshi words, the victors made sure that future generations would see their own ancestors as monsters. They didn't just win the war, they rewrote the very definition of their enemies. Okay, so let's take the word Vritra. In the myths, Vritra is this huge serpent or demon who blocks up all the rivers, causing a drought. And then the hero Indra comes along and slays him to release the waters. That's the story most of us know. But Nayak offers a totally different take. The word Vritra literally means obstruction. He argues that Vritra wasn't a demon at all. It was a sophisticated system of dams, an engineering marvel, that the Nagvanshi built to control water for their farms. So slaying Vritra wasn't a heroic act. It was an act of destroying critical infrastructure. All right, next up, the word asura. Today, when you hear that word, you pretty much instantly think of a demon, a villain, an enemy of the gods, right? But the book flips this on its head. It argues that the root word asua actually means life force or energy. So an asura wasn't a demon. It was a title of respect for someone who controlled life-giving energy, specifically those Nagvanshi engineers who managed the power of the rivers. The society's greatest minds were linguistically twisted into its greatest enemies. And one more for you, the Pani. In the old texts, they're shown as these greedy, stingy demons who just hoarded all their wealth and cattle and refused to share anything. But Nayak's interpretation, it reframes them completely. He suggests the Pani were actually the economic guardians of the Negavanshi republics. They were the treasurers, the ones in charge of the seed banks, the people protecting the national wealth, the cattle, from raiders. They weren't misers, they were patriots defending their nation's capital from being stolen. So, okay, fascinating history lesson, right? But why does any of this matter today? Well, the book's final point is that this ancient clash between the green and pink economic models, it never really stopped. We're living with its echoes right now. Nayak draws a straight line from that ancient pink revolution philosophy of extraction to our modern world. He sees it in the global industrial meat complex that treats animals like products on an assembly line. He sees it in our reliance on chemical fertilizers that destroy the soil. And he sees it in an overall economic model that's all about short-term consumption instead of preserving long-term sustainable capital. And that just leaves us with this one big, provocative question. It really makes you wonder, in our search for a sustainable future, could we be overlooking a blueprint for it that was perfected thousands of years ago? Is it possible that the key to our survival is hidden in the very history that the victors tried to bury? Look, whether you see this as a radical new theory or just a really compelling alternative history, the ideas are definitely worth thinking about. If you want to go deeper down this rabbit hole, you can find Karma Nayak's books and all his social media links right here. It's a fascinating perspective that, honestly, might just change how you look at the world around you.